Fellow chess players, I have a question to ask. What's the most important attribute a chess player can have? Is it a deep positional understanding? Is it tactics like a computer? Is it the ability to sit and concentrate for hours on end, debating over what the best move is? No, it's none of that. It's one thing: guts. If you have the ability to get into a position so wild, so crazy, it looks like the pieces were just smacked onto the board, that's what makes you a good player. Sure, you may lose games. So what? Sure, you might hang a piece on move 7. So what? Sure, you might only be rated 1200, but you have guts. Okay? I give credit to a friend of mine who's maybe not the best player in the world, but he has guts. Alright? I'm going to cover some openings that are a little psychological to get inside your opponent's head, okay? First of all, we need to understand the mind of a gambit player. This is something that a lot of people don't address. A gambit player, when somebody plays a gambit against you, they want you to accept it. They want you to accept it for two reasons. One, they want to attack because they have guts. And two, they've probably studied tons of variations, tons of games and ideas, and even if you get into the end game with the objective small advantage, they know what the hell they're doing, and they will probably beat you. Okay? Therefore, on a psychological level, declining gambits is good. Not because it's the best position. In fact, accepting some gambits will give you a technically better position. But I've played gambits before, and when my opponent declines the gambit, I'm like, oh, jeez, I hate this, okay? For example, okay? Let's not give white 2 moves in a row. The Goring Gambit, which is a good gambit. It's okay. At the highest level, maybe unsound, but you know what? When my opponent takes this, and I go here, and they take here, I'm happy because I got to play the gambit. But you know what I hate? When they go here. This is the Capablanca decline variation, or known as the Capablanca drawing line. And yes, I know how to play this. I know how to get into the endgame and the objective differences in it, where you have this different minor piece sort of scenario. And you know what? I can play that position okay. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I know it enough. The point is that it's so freaking boring. Okay? When you do this, I go, oh, great. Now I don't get to do what I want to do. That's a psychological advantage. Here's another example, okay? All right? And just to remind you, we're not talking about the best moves and the best, most sound, concrete variations. We're talking about psychologically messing with your opponent. And Blitz, it's especially good, okay? Let's say your opponent plays a King's Gambit, okay? Okay, you know, King's Gambit not very common anymore. They say, oh, this might not be very good. Your opponent wants you to take. That's why I put the pawn on f4. He wants you to take it, or she wants you to take it. You know what? Taking is not a bad move objectively, but you know what? Mess with their head. Say, no, 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 I'm playing the gambit. You're going to have to defend. Sit back and enjoy yourself. And you know what? From a mental level, you're going to psych him out. Because White's going to be like, oh no, I didn't want to defend. I don't know. And they're going to meekly push a pawn up to d3 or something. Okay? Or they're going to take and you can wedge this puppy in here, and all of a sudden it looks like a mirror image Albin counter gambit. And speaking of gambits, the Albin counter's good. The highest level, White probably gets a little bit better of position. But you know what? It's something crazy. And that's a lot of value to that, really. Okay? I'm serious. Forcing your opponent to be in a position that they don't like is the equivalent of having a pawn, for real, especially in a rapid game. If your opponent doesn't know what to do, this brings me to a theory I have about certain players, and arguably one of the best players ever, especially for his time, is Jose Raul Capablanca, third world champion from Cuba. Very great chess player. I'm not debating that. Capablanca was, for his time and era, the best, bar none. Okay? He was a specialist at positional chess, and his endgames were top-notch. And the book about him, called Capablanca's Chess Endings, is probably one of the best books for people between the ratings of 1,000 and 1,800 to learn endings. But the games in that book are extremely boring. Capablanca would get the tiniest positional advantage, and then he'd wring it out like a washcloth and eventually win in the end game. And the games are like 60, 70, 80 moves long, and you're playing through these moves like this. Okay, white goes here to strengthen the d4 square. Black is hard-pressed to find a constructive response and therefore plays h6 and waits. I made the mistake of trying to play chess like this, and what happened was I would get a good position, I'd make one tiny inaccuracy, and then I'd draw. Okay, great, a draw. I got a buddy who plays like this. His name is John, and every opening he plays is basically like, alright, I don't really want an advantage, I just want to draw. He plays the, for example, he plays the London system. And he knows it. Like every stinking line he knows like 20 moves deep. Because he says, I'm studying chess. You know, he calls me on the phone. He says, hey, Joe. Hello? Hey, what's going on, man? Oh, you're going to study chess? When he says study chess, he means he's going to study the London system. Okay? I doubt he's ever seen the Open Sicilian in his life. Really, I don't think he has. The point is, all right, I played him in Blitz today. I won a lot. Let's put it that way. I'm very proud of myself. I won a lot. I just went here, and he would go here, and I would go here, and then he would do this, and then I would, actually, I think he played e3 first, but we'll transpose. I'd go here, here, here. We'd get this position, he would do this, I would go here. And, okay. It looks like black is actually playing the Queen's Gambit for white with the c5 pawn. And anyway, as I say before, I really hate these positions. Actually, now that I remember it, his bishop was on e2. And so we'd go through this. He would go here. I would take. He would take back. I would do this. And okay, yes, maybe you can find fault in these moves, but what happened was he would take, then I took, this is one of the Blitz games, and basically we got into this position a couple times where actually this pawn became doubled. He had exchanged this off. This knight, no, the knights were here and here, and for some reason I had to push that here. We get into this position, and I'm like, wow, I don't know who's got the advantage technically here, but I kind of liked my position because I was able to be somewhat active on the queen side with that b-file being open. I don't know if that's like the right thing to do, but it was a 5-minute game. I saw b5, I put the rook on b8, and I aimed at b2. It seemed like a decent idea. Perhaps in a long game, I may entertain some sort of attempt to play e5 and attack the king. I actually did that in one of the Blitz games. Anyway, when I played this against him, we played 3 games like this. I won every one. And it's because, the reason I won, I think, and I could be wrong, is that I said, I'm going to just make some sort of imbalance, some sort of difference. And this is because I got guts. Okay, I said, hey, look at that, doubled pawn. Okay, you ever remember the 1600 d4 player who was under the impression that doubled pawns are bad no matter what? Let me tell you a secret. I won the most important chess game in my life with tripled isolated f-pawns. Let me say that again. Tripled isolated f-pawns. My opponent to this day is convinced that he was winning. And you know what? He may have. I don't really care. I won. But I got major counterplay with open files. And that's the thing about pawn structure and weaknesses. Is if you can't attack them, they're not weak. Plain and simple. If you cannot exploit the so-called weakness to your advantage, there is no weakness, and I stand by that assertion. Anyway, that's enough of that.